Hello everyone, my name is Shlok and today I'm going to be discussing my MDI Gurgaon interview, GD and VAT experience. And I'm going to share the things that went right, the things that went wrong, what are the kind of people I met, and a little bit of context. I'm traveling back home right now from MDI Gurgaon. I don't know if I'm going to be uploading this video right away. Maybe I'll upload it months from now. But without further ado, let's get into what exactly happened today and let's get into all the details. So, the first thing that happened is I get to the campus. It's not essentially a campus, but it was a hotel management institution that they had used as their interview location. So, we get there. On the third floor was the waiting area. There were a bunch of people, about 50 people in the waiting area, and then one by one your panel number comes. The panel number is written on a board, and my panel number was 1, my number was 9 in that panel. So I was one of the last people to be interviewed in my particular panel. That almost always happens to me because my name starts with an S. So most likely, if you are someone whose name comes towards the end in the alphabetical order, you need to be prepared that your process is going to take longer than it would normally take. So that's the first very important part. The second thing I want to talk about is what happens the first thing you get there. The first thing that happens is your group discussion process. Now, my group discussion, apologies for that, not the group discussion. Instead, the first thing that happens is the VAT. And this was the sort of misconception I had there also. I thought the GD is going to happen first because that's how it had taken place at XLRI, HRM, and BM. So that was something that was going on in my head, that GD is going to happen first and then VAT will happen. But here the opposite thing happened. VAT happened first and then GD happened. So what in my head, by mistake, I ended up sort of prompting, or I asked, can we start the discussion? Because I thought the GD is going to be first, but instead what happened was that we are supposed to write the VAT first. So I don't want you to take in any preconceived notion into your interview. Whenever you're going for any interview, that was my first very big key takeaway from this particular thing. Now coming on to the topic, what was my topic? My topic was diversity and inclusion, and how it impacts innovation in organizations. Of it wasn't like only companies were mentioned or only anything else was mentioned. You could have talked about political organizations, economic organizations. That was all game. You weren't supposed to talk about any one particular thing. So that was the topic, that diversity and inclusion, how it impacts, how it creates innovation. That was the first thing that we needed to note. After that, what happened is I wrote my VAT, and then the group discussion happens, and the entire group discussion unfolded. We were all talking about diversity and inclusion, how it impacts innovation when different viewpoints come together and different stakeholders are all addressed. It really adds value to the whole discussion, and we can unlock new growth engines for profitable or for profit motive companies, and for political organizations. We can come up with new ways to reach disadvantaged people. So that is something we talked about. And towards the end, one of the persons, he only got a chance to speak once. And towards the end of the discussion, the main panel member said to us, the main moderator said to us, that you all talked about how diversity and inclusion is important, but you did not give chance to the only person who could not really speak, who could not put his points forward. You did not really give him a chance. So you only say things, but you do not put them into practice. So that as a group, essentially he said that you have failed. Now I don't know if he meant that actually, or he wanted to test us with it, but that's what he said, and that is sort of a setback for all of us. That is something for you to learn, that if you are preaching something, you have to practice that as well, and you have to definitely give chances to other group members who aren't able to come forward and speak their topic. So that's yet another takeaway. Cool, now the group discussion is over. I am out again outside the interview room, and I'm interacting with a bunch of my peers. One of my peers was a Shark Tank featured entrepreneur. Very, very impressive. He told me about funding, how he reaches out to investors, how he cold emails them, how he gets his contact details, and so on. The next one was a person who did his electrical and mechanical engineering from IIT Patna and IIT KGP respectively. So a very impressive bunch of people. One was a 99.8 percentiler it was insane. It was the kind of people I met. Some were very prolific in the world of finance. Their knowledge was very, very extensive. And yeah, it does take it could take a toll on you. It doesn't take a toll on me anymore because I am pretty used to this now, meeting all kinds of amazing people at these interviews. It's a staple of doing an interview. So that is yet another thing that you should definitely be prepared for: meeting overachievers and not being intimidated by them. You should definitely be prepared for that. Cool. Now let's get on to what happened in my interview. I go inside. There is one female, one male member in the panelist, and the female asks me that okay, walk me through your profile, Shlok. So this is essentially just tell me about yourself, but in different words. So you need to be aware about that as well, that how this whole thing works. And then I told them about my intro. I talked about my entire profile, what all I've been up to. I talked about my YouTube journey as well, but they did not seem really impressed with that. They did not ask me any questions in that regard. So that is one thing. The ma'am really asked me that you told us about your views on diversity and inclusion, but what if in the placement scenario at MDI, what happens is that you and a female are at the exact same in terms of profile. Your profiles are essentially identical, but the female gets selected just because she is a female. So how would you react to that situation? I answered that situation. There were a bunch of other questions to my profile as well, not essentially my profile but surrounding that only. Females are known for taking, or some people say that females take emotional decisions. So what would you say to that? So I sort of gave my answer to that as well, that there are many females who are in leading positions and they are doing essentially a phenomenal job. I gave different examples as well. I gave the example of Georgia Meloni, then I gave the example of the Chief Minister of West Bengal. I gave several female CEOs and their examples. So a bunch of examples I gave in order to reiterate my point, and that is a little bit where my interaction with the female panelist was done, and then she passed the baton over to the male panelist. Now the male panelist, he was the one that had earlier in our GD also highlighted the fact that we did not give we did not give a chance to the member who spoke the least. So he was the one that had pinpointed that fact, and I was expecting something along those lines because in the GD I was the one who spoke the most. So sort of it was my responsibility to give that chance to him. So I was expecting something along those lines, but that did not really materialize. That did not happen. But the question I was asked is, or I was rather told that, Shlok, I think you have some very strong opinions, and I had also given an example of a case methodology in my group discussion. So what the panelists ended up asking me was that, do you know how the case methodology was started? I said, sorry sir, I'm not really sure about that. And so he essentially advised me to research about any particular topic before speaking on it in a group discussion, because you are being evaluated on that basis. So I was essentially heartbroken at that point of time because I did not know how to react to that. And then he also said that I think everyone takes emotional decisions, both men and women, and doesn't necessarily mean that emotional decisions are is essentially bad decision making. So that was yet another perspective shifting thing for me, that I wasn't able to think in that particular manner. So I acknowledge that as well, ki sir, this particular path of thinking I did not really pick up on. And essentially towards the end of the interview, I did not have anything to talk about because I think I'm really not sure that what really happened towards the end of the interview. So essentially you need to be prepared for anything and everything that can turn up. You need to be, I really don't know what can happen in these interviews. Now I'm recording this before I get essentially selected or rejected, because I got done with my interview today only. But I'll probably add another segment to this video whenever I get selected or rejected, and I'm going to be talking about what thing worked for me or essentially was a detriment to my profile or my candidature for that matter. And it's right now I really don't know what happened in that interview room. I came out I came out like a lost warrior, that is a warrior who has lost. That is how I ended up back. But that's a little bit from what my interaction went. That this is what I want you to take away. The first thing is, anything can happen. You should not become defensive. You should not say like, no, no, sir, this is, you're sort of getting me wrong. You should only say that, sir, I misunderstood the assignment maybe, and that is why I put forth my views the way I did. But it is not like my views are absolutely etched in stone. It is not like they're permanent and they are not going to change. I would definitely take in new inputs, and I would definitely change my opinions in case they were opinions that needed correction. So I did try to sort of give him that message also, but I'm not sure if I was able to deliver it correctly or not. So that's a little bit from my side, and I think everyone's interviews were a little dicey. They aren't entirely sure if it went well or not, and that's a little bit from this particular part of the video.